Yes. Cool. All right. I think we're set. Happy New Year to everybody from Octant side. We're kicking off the year with a new Epoch allocation window, Epoch 10. A very special one because it's the best of the best. The top projects of the previous epochs are participating, so we're very excited. We recently launched our V2 as well, so if you had a chance to check it out, please do. And we also launched an experiment called Stream Vote, which is currently running and quite exciting. If you haven't seen it, you can check it in our profile. Make sure to check it in there. And yeah, well, let's start with a quick round of intros. These are 4 projects participating in Epoch 10 that have been doing a lot of impact on the Ethereum side and using Ethereum to create impact. So we're very excited to chat with each of them. And so yeah, let's start with Drew with a quick intro.
Yeah, thank you, Nico. And sorry in advance, everyone. I'm coming off a bit of a sickness again for the second time in like a month and have lost my voice. So super excited to be here. Happy New Year. Amazing to see so many friendly faces and to connect with some new folks as well. My name is Drew. I'm the founder of Crypto Altruists, and we're a content platform that's really dedicated to showing the world the good of Web3. And so we do that through a number of different ways. We have our podcast with 250 plus episodes. We've actually had folks from each of the projects on stage on the podcast in the past to highlight their work. We're really focused on, highlighting the projects that are using this technology to drive some sort of social or environmental impact. And we really focus on not only providing these use cases, but also providing the tooling to help nonprofits, change makers, grassroots organizations leverage this technology for good. And so with that, we have our toolkit, which we're in the process of releasing, that has a number of different courses, walkthroughs, case studies, resource libraries for individuals looking to really, get into the space and leverage this technology to grow their impact. Yeah, we've, our podcast is our bread and butter. We've had 4 or 5 different podcast series. One we wrapped up not too long ago, focused on the Octant ecosystem, which is where we had folks from Protocol Guild and Greenpill Dev Guild as well, and highlighting the work that they're doing. And so, yeah, really our mission is about looking at, all right, we see this technology not only as an amazing financial infrastructure, but also as an incredible generational infrastructure for good, for humanitarian rails, for, building a more sustainable and healthy world. I really believe that this technology and the primitives that it enables can really scale that impact. It's just a matter of getting it in the right hands and really helping, educate the world about this, because a lot of folks still are kind of hesitant to engage in Web3, especially folks that are maybe in traditional impact spaces. And so our mission is to not only help change that perspective, but to really show them the case studies of the technology being used for good and being done right, and then also helping them take those next steps so they can do it themselves. So that's a little bit about Crypto Altruists.
Amazing. Thank you, Drew. Excited to hear more about what you've been cooking and what's coming up next when we dive deeper into that. And for our next guests, I'd love to have Protocol Guild with Peter and Cheeky. Can you give us a quick intro about yourselves, your roles at Protocol Guild? And well, Protocol Guild, for those who don't know, I guess it's not a big amount of people, but for those who don't, maybe a quick recap of Protocol Guild. We cannot hear you, Peter. Your mic is off. I don't know. Seems off.
I don't hear him either.
Oh, weird.
All right. Well, Peter, why don't you try to figure out what's going on with you? I'll take it over. Hey, well, yeah, I guess first of all, thank you very much, Nico, Octant team, for having us on here. Awesome to be part of a cohort that's called Best of the Best. Can't complain about that. Yeah, I mean, we're Protocol Guild. Myself and Peter, first of all, we're on the operations side of things. But what Protocol Guild is a funding collective for Ethereum's core protocol contributors. These are the brave men and women who are working on the amazing upgrades to the Ethereum blockchain, basically helping to make sure that Ethereum remains the dominant smart contract blockchain in the world. And so there's a lot of work that goes into that. And it is not always the best compensated work. And some of these individuals are really forgoing a lot to do this work. And so what Protocol Guild aims to do is essentially try to rebalance some of those financial incentives to increase the financial incentives associated with this work, to make sure that we have less churn in the contributors who are doing this, to make sure that we have more consistency in the knowledge handover that goes into this work. Yeah, Ethereum's core protocol development is a very, very complex beast, and there are not a lot of participants in this process. So Protocol Guild has identified a list of, I think, 184 individuals today that are basically, that make up Protocol Guild itself as a membership registry. And then what we do is we go around to the ecosystem and we essentially try to convince them to help support this work, help support these individuals by donating into an on-chain mechanism that vests ecosystem tokens directly to these individuals over 4 years, thus giving them some long-term incentives to stick around and allowing them to benefit from all the value that's basically being created in the ecosystem via these tokens. So that's us in a nutshell. Peter, if you figured out your audio, feel free to add anything that I missed.
Oh yeah, hopefully, I don't know if you guys can hear me now. Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah, I am Peter. Awesome. I work on the operations side of things with Cheeky for Protocol Guild. Yeah, he did a great explanation there, but I'll just add that, over the last 4 years since Protocol Guild's been enacted, we've distributed roughly 36 million to the membership. And yeah, we're hoping to really scale that quite a bit as we try to enact Ethereum's ambitious roadmap.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Amazing work that you guys been doing. Also excited to hear what the plans are for 2026 and maybe a 2025 recap afterwards. Now let's hear from Holke from Hypercerts. Quick intro about yourself and the project, sir.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me, and Happy New Year to everyone. Yeah, as Cheeky already said, excited to be in this cohort, and great to see all these amazing projects. So I'm the director of the Hypercerts Foundation, where we developed the Hypercerts protocol, which basically is a tool in order to turn your valuable work into impact certificates, such that those who actually create value in our societies really can focus on that work and have the resources to do so. So this can be open source software, similar to Protocol Guild, but it can also be regenerative land stewards or journalists or anybody else who actually creates value that is not easily be financed by a classical business model. And the way we do that, we have had basically the first version of Hypercerts was really focused on kind of a token-centric version of the impact certificate. And I will explain a little bit more what happened in 2025, where we changed a little bit the direction, but the core of what we do still is the same. And we really want to kind of add to the work that people do all the data that we can have. And that can be data, for example, if you think about land stewards, from like satellite imagery, bioacoustics, expert opinion, community input, and all of that data really can show what is it that people do that we as a society, as groups, really value. And if we have kind of that data layer about the impactful work, then we can redirect our financial resources to actually fund this work. And we believe that that is a general paradigm that we need to implement, not only for open source software, but widely in society, especially when you also think about the changes that are coming from like the productivity inequalities from AI. So we believe that this is something extremely important, and we need kind of tools to do that. And we try to kind of build one of the primitives that others can then build platforms on top of to fund the valuable work in our societies.
Yeah, I love to hear that. Ethereum especially seems to be the home for impact in the blockchain space and beyond. So it's feels super important to have something like that here. So very excited. Thank you, Holke, and excited to hear all those changes in a bit that you've done to Hypercerts. And last but not least, let's have Afo from Greenpill Dev Guild. A quick intro about yourself and the project, sir, please.
Yeah, we'd love to. I'm Afo. I'm the steward of the Greenpill Dev Guild as well as the Greenpill Network. And in the Dev Guild, we're a community of builders supporting Greenpill chapters and region communities with regenerative tools, product feedback, workshops, tech support. And we're focused across the different parts of the stack from capital formation all the way to impact reporting. So in essence, we look to provide kind of that connection point from the on the ground impact to the tool builders and the infrastructure that we're building in the space. So we're just here to help facilitate that, help to get Ethereum adopted across the locales, make localism more of a theme. And yeah, so I'm excited to be here with everybody, Protocol Guild, Hypercerts, Crypto Altruists, and yeah, it's gonna be a great combo.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Afo. I was super excited to chat also about all the things that you've done. It seems like you guys have been doing a bunch of stuff last year, and excited to hear what's coming up for 2026. So actually, let's start with a quick recap of 2025 with each of you. What were some highlights? What were maybe some lowlights that you want to improve for the next year? And probably that's what you're gonna use the funding that you're gonna get with Octant. Would love to hear that. Let's start with you, Drew.
Yeah, sounds good. Normally, I'm not someone that likes to prepare notes for these things because I feel like it throws me off. But I was just thinking that so much has happened over the last year that I had to kind of, jot down some notes here. And it really started with us kind of wrapping up our transition and rebrand and transition to our new website from Crypto Altruism to Crypto Altruists, really focusing on kind of a more community-oriented approach. And that came with a new website. Launch of our Ethereum for Good hub on that new website. And so really we want that to be kind of a one-stop hub for, all the good that's happening in the Ethereum ecosystem. So on that, we have a podcast starter pack, a number of different articles and resources and use case infographics. We have some of our podcast series, including those with Octant and Glow Dollar and Optimism, which we wrapped up over the last couple of years. But honestly, like one of the big highlights for us in 2025 was participating in Octant Epoch 9. And that was a huge honor to be alongside so many amazing creators and storytellers. And then just shortly after to get this, notification that I'll be participating in Epoch 10, which absolutely blew my mind. To be at a table with the folks that are on the stage right now and so many incredible other projects and individuals is just mind blowing. So, looking forward to the future, what that's really going to enable us to do and what Epoch 9 really enabled us to do as well is really focus on moving from just content in 2025 to tooling in 2026. And that includes launching a suite of courses on Ethereum for Good and the different use cases, things like, not only just like crypto philanthropy, but impact monitoring and verification, where we see, like Hypercerts, for example, coming in and coordination and funding and, where we see like Protocol Guild and Greenpill Dev Guild. So just like really highlighting these different use cases and how, nonprofits, grassroots organizations can use these, Ethereum-based primitives to really, grow their impact and scale into the future. And so, this funding and this opportunity is really enabling us to go all in on this Ethereum for Good hub and really keep on putting out more content and tools and courses that really help folks in the impact economy, make that transition into this space.
Love to hear that, and love to hear the podcast as well. It's super insightful. Love the guests that you have there. It's it feels like the home of Ethereum is everything that makes impact and things for good. So it's great to have a podcast specific for that and highlighting all those people who make it happen. So awesome to hear that 2025 was such a great year for that, and looking forward to 2026. Let's go with Protocol Guild, Cheeky and Peter. What's happened in 2025 at Protocol Guild?
Yeah, absolutely. I can start with a low light standpoint. After an amazing 2024 in terms of fundraising, unfortunately, this past 2025 was a down year. We obviously have very ambitious goals for, really filling these coffers to, as Chiki mentioned, really make Protocol Guild a place where core developers can feel, secure that funding will be available into the future, and that we can retain and acquire really high level talented developers. So we're hoping to really kind of reverse that trend going into the next year. But some things that we're doing to kind of lay the foundation for that, or have done in the past year, is number one, we revamped our website. That was an early project that we did, where we worked with a team to really understand how we can position ourselves a little bit better. And we worked on some brand messaging and positioning, as well as updating our website with several pages and a new blog. So you can check that out at protocolguild.org. We've also done a couple ancillary, web property upgrades across our recent Dune dashboard, as well as and Chiki could probably speak a little bit more to the specifics of it, but we've upgraded our governance to Agora, which was a really cool upgrade in terms of what we were doing and able to do. We were using a Moloch DAO architecture before that. One new thing that we did this past year that we had never done before is we actually conducted a survey of all Protocol Guild members around compensation, so that we could have a little bit harder data on, what the compensation gap really is, and, what kind of offers they're receiving out there in the ecosystem, and really how large of a uphill battle we have to really make our offering competitive, as, the client teams and the teams that are funding them, as well as Protocol Guild in concert. Beyond that, we have been working on a couple of different new fundraising modes. We've understood that the 1% pledge has been like a very, successful mode to date. However, there are issues around, we have to understand, when teams are TGEing, and there's just a couple of headwinds that make it not the most consistent funding apparatus. So we're looking into different ways. And we recently launched something called Sponsor a Core Dev, which is actually delineated again, or denominated against some of the data that we got in that survey that I had mentioned earlier. And there are actually a couple of other kind of interesting in-app. So we can't share too much right now because nothing is concrete, but there's some in-app with large partner funding opportunities that are coming up down the stream. Other than that, and we've updated our auditing process. We've done 15 consecutive membership updates, which includes what we're calling audits now, and we're trying to be a little bit more explicit about how we're doing that and what is happening within those audit streams. And so that's kind of a compressed version of what we've been doing in the past year.
Fantastic. That's
I
awesome.
think the only thing I'll add there, I'm mindful that we don't have too much time. So the only quick thing that I'll add there is that, as Peter mentioned, like from an operational perspective, and obviously I think we're both biased, we shipped a lot of stuff, right? And a lot of the things that we shipped were basically tools to help us tell the story of Protocol Guild, right? Like as we're going around fundraising, there's only so much like proactive calls that like Peter and I and Trent can have per day. There's only so many people that we can meet, right? As we're doing this proactive fundraising, we kind of need to like have some autopilot as well for fundraising. And the best ways to do that is to have like, a good website where kind of the pitch of what you're funding is self-evident, having a working Dune analytics dashboard, having a rock solid mechanism behind the on-chain smart contract architecture like an Agora DAO to help make sure that everything there is as bulletproof as possible and donors really feel comfortable putting their money into these mechanisms. And so operationally speaking, I think we really had a great year. we just didn't quite get the level of donations that we wanted. But if you look at it maybe as a year for us to kind of like, set the stage for being able to have a better jumping off point for fundraising in 2026, then, that's where a lot of our optimism comes from, I think, for the next 12 months. I know later on we'll talk a little bit more specifically about Ethereum's core protocol development. That's very much separate from the internal protocol guild operations. But I think I'll let the other teams here talk about their 2025 first.
Before we get into that, would you mind talking briefly about the Agora thing that you guys did? That's probably interesting for our audience here. What does that mean for the community around Protocol Guild?
Yeah, for sure. So Protocol Guild is a DAO. And so we were originally a Moloch v3 DAO. Now we are an Agora DAO. I think there's basically two parts to Protocol Guild's kind of on-chain operations, let's call it. Number one is instantiating the self-curation that we're doing. Self-curation, I suppose, is another word for the audits that Peter mentioned, right? Because every quarter, what Protocol Guild does is it basically looks at, okay, who are the current individuals who are involved in building and maintaining Ethereum, and making sure that this list that we keep is up to date. And so this is like the biggest mandate that we have, because we're saying that, donate to Protocol Guild, you're funding the core devs. So, this list of core devs needs to be accurate. And so we're updating this list on a quarterly basis. And those updates are instantiated on chain once a quarter via a DAO vote. And so to streamline this process, we have moved to an Agora DAO recently. This we did in Q4, but it's something that we've been working with the Agora team over the last 1+ year. And the primary driver behind that migration was because we have a lot of multi-sig dependencies. So we have a 6 of 10 multi-sig that controls a lot of the funding related smart contracts. Our actual 4-year vesting contract, which is the thing that donors put money into, that's immutable. That does not have an owner. But where the vested funds goes, those do have owners. And this is where the 6 of 10 multi-sig comes in. And it's because it needs to have an owner because obviously, as we're updating this list of members on a quarterly basis, we need to go into those smart contracts on chain and update them, right? And so with the Agora DAO, we've been able to migrate the control of these so-called split contracts, which basically has this list of all the addresses that belong to the core devs. That can now be kind of edited on a quarterly basis directly via the Agora DAO. This could have been done as well via the Moloch DAO, but there were some basically like quality of life improvements that we saw with the Agora DAO that helped push us towards making that switch. We're really excited about that the DAO itself can now also update the split contract, can trigger distributions of the funds. So basically making sure that we are not relying on our multi-sig as much as we were in the last year. So that's been really exciting. The Agora team has been phenomenal to work with, so highly recommend you reaching out to them if you have any kind of on-chain governance needs. There are a lot of projects that use Agora DAO, including Optimism. So they definitely know what they're doing, and their UI is really, really slick. So yeah, highly recommend it. I think from our side, there's a lot more that we can do with our DAO. But I think for the moment, we really want to take a step back because smart contract development is hard and auditing can be expensive. That is auditing smart contracts. So I think we're gonna hold off on more DAO development for 2026 and focus more on fundraising. But yeah, Agora DAO has been a fantastic, I guess, upgrade for us in 2025.
Nice, solid update. Thank you, Peter and Chiki. Exciting stuff happened last year, and now let's hear from Holke. How did 2025 look like for Hypercerts? You were teasing a little bit about this change from, I guess, like a tokenized certificates to something else. So we'd love to hear that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it still can be tokenized. So I take that initially already. But I start with a different highlight. One of the highlights was that from the version that we built, and we had like kind of a template app, and Gainforest took this template app and was able to really quickly build their platform ecocertain.xyz on top of the Hypercerts stack. So that was like a highlight where a different team used our tech to build something specifically for their use case. And that's how we imagine funding platforms to work, so that it's really easy to spin up your own funding platform. Something that also came out of that experience was it was not as easy to build on top of it as we hoped. So still, it was like they managed it, but it could have been easier. And in the process, to work with Gainforce and also with MaEarth, which is another organization that will build or is building right now on top of the Hypercerts protocol, we kind of made the decision to switch part of the data layer to @proto. @proto is the decentralized social media protocol that Blue Sky is built on. And that is now kind of where we put most of the data. Why we did this change is because not everything that we care about from the data needs to be on chain. And we have an interesting identity, like a persistent identifier that we can use. So if you think about, you have just like a post on social media, now you post about like a structured object about the work that you have done that was impactful. So this is similar to just a regular post. It should be, to make this claim about your work, it should be as easy as posting on social media. And then if others come in and evaluate your work, that can be like professional evaluators, that can be the community, they kind of reply to your work post. And with that, you get kind of a social graph and a graph from like the work that you have done, evaluations, and evaluation, a reply or a like can be already kind of a type of evaluation. And so with this interesting data layer, then we can decide what of these things do we actually need to tokenize. So you tokenize kind of the core work claim, and then you can connect that to funding streams, and the people who fund that work can then own part of that work. But that doesn't mean that everything needs to be on chain. So that's why we have now this dual system where we have off-chain data on @proto connected to a tokenized layer on Ethereum and layer 2s. We are super excited about this because when you dig deeper into the @proto architecture, you realize that there's so many good things because everybody, like all the projects, can self-host their data. They're not dependent on anybody hosting their data. It's more flexible in the way things can be mutable, but then we have like the security from the on-chain part whenever we want it. So that was kind of really like the big directional change that took some time, but we are like so excited now to like put it to real work in 2026, and we will talk about that more. What I want to highlight about 2025 as well is kind of this work as a network, because there are some core contributors to the Hypercerts protocol, but there are also core contributors to the protocol from other organizations like MaEarth and Gainforce. And then we have a bunch of additional contributors from Astro Protocol, from Sylvie, from Region Network, ReFi DAO, and Funding the Commons. So there are like many different people involved in this. And this is because we build as a network, because the product that, or like the protocol that we create is supposed to also power a network. So that's why we kind of take this idea from Conway's law that we have the structure of the product that we develop that resembles kind of the organizational structure and the communication structure that we live on the day-to-day basis. And then another highlight was kind of the shared spaces, because lots of the work that we do happen in shared spaces from Edge City and Funding the Commons, and then kind of the co-location weeks with MaEarth. And yeah, this is just like such a privilege to like travel and find the people that are doing this amazing work. And then at the same time, interact with amazing other projects in those spaces as well. So 2025 has been a year for us of like transitioning a little bit, but also has been like so fun to lay this basis that we can now start into 2026.
Cool stuff. Yeah, it's this seems like a common thread here, like sort of transition years already for Protocol Guild and for Hypercerts. So seems like 2026 is gonna be pretty strong on the execution and growth side. So super excited to see that. And yeah, the changes sound like very strong foundational. So yeah, bullish on you guys. Afo, let's hear from Greenpill Dev Guild. What have you guys been cooking? What's has 2025 looked for you?
Yeah, 2025 was continuing the theme of a year of transition. I'd say the first half was a lot more difficult than expected, right? Just I think in the markets and just overall just kind of sentiment. It felt like our space, public good space in particular, was going through a kind of a sense making of how do we, better approach and find sustainability, and just growing up. I think we're kind of going from amateur to pro, whether it's like, professional, like a boxer or something, right? Like, doing good in the amateurs, but now it's like, okay, it's getting serious. Now it's like we want to get into the big boy league. So I think for us, the second half of the year was really where we started to form more structure within the Dev Guild. I published with our team the Regenerative Stack series, which was a series of articles talking about kind of the stack we're building that starts from capital formation, then goes to capital allocation, then identity reputation, and then impact reporting, and kind of focusing on how can we have better interoperability between these layers, because in essence, people that are interacting with Ethereum and the people we want to interact with Ethereum are going to be people on the ground and more so using apps. Like they're not going to interface with a lot of the nitty gritty, DeFi, just lower level protocols, right? We kind of want to abstract that. So we took a time to kind of sense make on what that would look like, and then spent the rest of the year starting to build out that stack, which we already had started. Like it was kind of inorganically, but that was kind of like a declaration of like, this is our stack, this is what we're going to focus on. And since then, really, I've seen a lot of progress. I think the two fronts I'll mention will be capital formation with public good staking, and like, DeFi yield. So like Octant vaults, for example, like that's going to be huge for us in 2026. So also a lot of this is timing, right? It's just waiting for things to, mature, get released, etc. So that's something that's big for us that we definitely kicked off in 2026. And then impact reporting, which is we have a protocol called Green Goods, which is a PWA that you can install via the browser. And then from there, log in with passkey, log in with wallet. And like Holke was saying, kind of make a post, easily capture impact in 3 simple steps where you just provide the media, provide some details, you review it, and then they upload. So we're really going to focus this year on like kind of expanding the aperture for impact reporting, from making it more accessible, not just via PWAs, but also smart feature phones where people don't have smartphone access or have access to apps, but they have SMS, for example. And then capital formation, like I said, is going to be a huge part. We actually have a grant from Arbitrum to build out Hypercerts integration. So going to be talking to you, Holke, with V2, and see how we could get that integrated. So yeah, a lot of good stuff going on to end the year and to start 2026.
I love to see all the collaborations happening there between projects. It's probably one of my favorite parts of all these epochs, when like different projects are working with each other. And yeah, it seems like you guys at the Greenpill Dev Guild are also sort of like glue that puts together a bunch of pieces in the impact space on Ethereum, and that's super exciting to see. And yes, Durgadas is saying here, he's seen the Greenpill's evolution. It's growing more and more, I feel. And so you're called the Greenpill Dev Guild. Is that how many devs are currently part of the community, and has it grown in 2025, or have you focused more on what you were saying of like reassessing kind of like the public goods space?
Yeah, I'd say when we first started, it was pretty open-ended. Like honestly, it's a lot of vibes and sense making. Like, okay, like what is this actually gonna look like? Are we just doing workshops? Are we just like a startup? Like we were kind of in between these two areas. I would say now we're really kind of condensed the team, and like we're kind of more startup based right now, just because of the fact that we have a lot of retro, a lot of work that the team did, and to just start bringing in more people doesn't make that much sense. And then just with like tooling, AI, and different things, we could build efficiently and stuff with not as many people as before. So yeah, right now, like as a core engineers, I'm like the main engineer, like coding all our products. But you need more than an engineer to build a product. You need design, you need marketing, you need BD, you need product, you need research. So we have all these different parts of, from other people in the team that support and bring these vital aspects to that then inform the product building.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's transition to more specific questions to each of you. For Protocol Guild, I had a question around, well, and I guess it's a good way to showcase your work in a way, because you're in close contact with the protocol developers and researchers. Like, how was the Glamsterdam upgrade, the latest upgrade that Ethereum has gone through, and like, what role do you play there, and maybe also give us a bit of an idea of what's coming up in general, and also for Protocol Guild.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, Ethereum's core protocol development has never been in a better place. They are truly on a hot streak. I don't think it's unfair to say. But before we talk about like what are they shipping, it might be worth to take a step back and say like, okay, like what is this process like? And the answer is it's complicated, and that's on purpose. Like Ethereum's governance is messy. It's a feature, not a bug, because when you have a governance process that is easily mapped out, like in one single venue, it's easier to attack. But certainly there were some changes to Ethereum's governance process last year to make things more clear, right? And specifically, this was around fork scoping, right? Deciding what goes into an upgrade. And for the last few years, there have been like generally some upgrades, like the merge, which kind of like were for a very long time on people's horizons. We knew they were coming. Like work had been on them ongoing for many years. And like after the merge, like enabling withdrawals, these kind of things. But what happened was that we kind of hit the first upgrade that didn't have like a single headline feature that everyone kind of corralled around, and that resulted in the Pectra upgrade last year, which shipped in May of last year, that was basically Ethereum's largest upgrade ever. Yes, larger than the merge, because it included so many different things inside it that probably shouldn't have been in the same fork, because they each touch so many different things. So this thing became an absolute nightmare to test, and it was a lot, right? So that was the Pectra upgrade. It brought us some incredible features for the core protocol. It doubled blobs. Blobs, what are blobs? Blobs are the scaling mechanism for Ethereum's layer 2s. So if you think about like when we're talking about scaling Ethereum's layer 1, usually you do that by increasing the block sizes of the Ethereum mainnet, because then more transactions can fit in a block. And blobs are kind of the equivalent for layer 2s. It's where the layer 2s post their transaction data. And so, yeah, the blobs were doubled in Pectra. EOAs, which are basically like the defaults address that people have when they create an Ethereum account. Those were given some superpowers, basically allowing them to do like smart account abstraction type stuff. For example, being able to have like two-factor authentication built into like an EOA, or like paying for gas with something other than ETH. These are things that like smart contract accounts have always been able to do, but it's not something that was available to EOAs until this upgrade. Another huge feature was stake consolidation, which basically helped reduce some of the overhead on the network, and is a cool feature for validators who basically, instead of managing multiple 32 ETH validators, could manage just a single validator with up to 2048 ETH. And the rewards that you get from staking will kind of pool in your account and will sort of be reinvested into your stake balance. So some really cool stuff, but you can see like the three things that I've just mentioned are like very different from each other. And so really this was a messy upgrade. It went flawlessly because of course this is Ethereum we're talking about, but nevertheless, there were a lot of really good learnings from the Pectra process. And one of the most defining learnings from that process was to corral around like 3 priorities for Ethereum's core protocol development, which is, and I've already touched on these a little bit, scale the layer 1, scale the blobs, and improve UX. And so now, since Pectra, every single fork is kind of centered around those themes. And the upgrades that are going in, they need to basically like check the boxes there, or they're not going in, right? And so after Pectra, we had Fusaka, and Fusaka is the most recent hard fork that shipped in December. And Fusaka basically it shipped this feature called PeerDOS, which is basically puts these blobs on steroids, so a scaling mechanism for layer 2s again. It sets the stage for us to double the blobs again, and then like up to 8x them over the next few months. So this is being done incrementally via a cool new upgrade that allows us to kind of sneak in blob upgrades without doing like a full blockchain fork. And at the same time, the gas increase was increased from 60 million to 35 million, from 35 million to 60 million. So it was very much a scale the layer 1 and scale blob fork. So yeah, that shipped in December. And so what's coming up? The next fork is Glamsterdam, and the Glamsterdam so far has 2 headliners. The exact scope of Glamsterdam is still being discussed. But fundamentally speaking, like the 2 biggest, the headline features that it'll have are something called EPBS, Enshrined Proposer Builder Separation, and block level access lists. I don't think we need to dive into the technical details of those things because they can be best summarized as like pure L1 scaling loveliness, right? These are things that basically rewire the piping of Ethereum, rewire the piping of the way that clients are architectured to make sure that we can significantly increase Ethereum's scaling limits. So that's going to be a really, really cool upgrade. And hopefully it'll come in the first half of next year because as you heard, there were 2 upgrades last year. I believe that's the first time Ethereum has ever done that in terms of like real forks. And we want to keep on doing that, right? And so Amsterdam, hopefully in the first half of next year, and then the one after that will be called Hagoda. That one is like, I told you that Amsterdam has not been completed. The scope of it has not been completed yet. So obviously for Hagoda, we're not even close to that. It looks like a headliner, or at least the leading headliner right now, but of course subject to change, is something called Fossil, which is a censorship resistance mechanism to make sure that your transaction is definitely going to be included in one of in the upcoming blocks. So yeah, Glamsterdam is going to be really, really exciting for those people who like to use the layer 1 as their home, because the last 2 upgrades have been very much focused on helping to scale the layer 2s a little bit. So yeah, Glamsterdam, first half of next year. But like I said, the process is still relatively early. So it will be fleshed out with some more smaller features. Hopefully starting next week or the week after it, we will have basically locked down the final feature set for Glamsterdam. In the interim, what we already have with EPBS, with block level access lists, is a really, really cool fork. So going forward, Ethereum's core protocol development will remain kind of like a messy beast, but that's okay as long as we all agree that the 3 priorities are to scale the layer 1, scale blobs, and improve UX. So yeah, we don't have too much time left, so maybe I'll stop there. But I don't know. Did you have any questions on that one, Nico?
No, I think that was super clear and very exciting stuff. It's always cool to hear how the entire process goes, and well, the how much the pace has increased in the last year or so. I feel the Ethereum community is thriving and really functioning a lot more like a I want to say war machine, I guess, like a very powerful thing. So I'd love to see that. Cool. Next up, I wanted to ask Holke about Hypercerts. Maybe talk a little bit about. You mentioned 2 use cases with Gainforest and MyEarth. Maybe you can give us a bit of an overview of like what other kind of practical use cases, because I think out of all of us here, probably yours is the one that touches like maybe the app layer the most in a way. So we'd love to hear what practical use cases have we seen already in impact certificates, and maybe what's coming up in 2026.
Cool. Yeah. So what we have seen with EcoCertain is kind of a platform that does crowdfunding via Hypercerts for regenerative land projects, and that is kind of the focus of EcoCertain, Gainforest, as well as of MarEarth. And this is also for us the focus at the Hypercerts Foundation, because what we say is like we have to close the loop between protocol development, app development on top of that, the developer experience in between that, and then the user experience between the apps, the platforms, and we need to take those experiences into account when we develop the protocol. And that's why also we need to, that's why we work together so closely, because it's like the whole thing needs to fit together. And so what will happen in Q1, Q2 is that both of these platforms will launch so that regenerative land projects can kind of crowdfund, in some cases similar to what Gitcoin did with quadratic funding, but now very specific to regenerative land projects. And so these platforms take kind of like what worked in some domains and now make it really specific for like, what do we actually want to know about land projects, such that we know they actually created impact and they will create more impact if we fund them, so that the funding goes to the places where it's most effectively being used. And then the way we, like, this is something that we take as a starting point to then collect more of the data that we need to develop more interesting funding mechanisms on top of that, because this is just like the start to a whole ecosystem that we need in order to actually fund regenerative land projects. Because what the challenge there is that we need to actually deploy massive amounts of capital to a lot of different projects, because the projects that are really connected to land are those that need like maybe 10 or 20,000 a year, and they are not the ones that need millions. But at the same time, we need kind of hundreds of thousands of these smaller projects, and that is kind of the data collection problem, where it's too expensive to actually do a full due diligence on these projects, because they cost more than giving them like 5,000 to do actually the work that they want to do. So this is why kind of this decentralized evaluation platform that is built on top of kind of the Hypercerts protocol is useful. And this is really like the focus of what we do right now, because like I always say, like it can be used for like lots of different impact domains, if that is open source software or journalism or anything else. But still, if you do everything else at the same time, then we will probably not do anything. So that's why that is really the focus of what we do. And then in addition to that, there are amazing projects like Greenpill Dev Guild and others that also want to use Hypercerts. And so that is kind of the second thing. If like others are like, hey, this is also what we want to do, then we support them from the Hypercerts Foundation. And this also includes, for example, libp2p, who are really interested in building kind of a hyperboard to show who funded libp2p, who contributed in kind to libp2p, and really make this also a Hypercerts use case. And then something that I'm also excited about is kind of dogfooding Hypercerts. So we will at some point launch Hypercerts for Hypercerts, also to show what happened in the last years, who contributed to this, and really make this also a showcase of how we think this can work and how we improve the ecosystem, like the funding infrastructure for projects, because we ourselves are a public goods project, obviously. So we have kind of the same problem that we want to solve for others, which is kind of like obviously a chicken and egg problem, but it's good that we have kind of Octant and others who support our work, so that we can also like create a better funding ecosystem for all of us, which I think is really where the paradigm shift in the economy is that we need to solve. And I'm super excited about those use cases. And then with the use cases, showing how the Hypercerts protocol works, and then scaling it across different domains and across different projects to really make the impact that we need.
Love that. Amazing. Sounds like an exciting year ahead. And as I said, like I hope to expand this beyond the Web3 bubble eventually as well. You know, I mean, we're already, I guess, seeing it with Gainforest and My Earth, that probably people who are not super familiar with that are already using it, but always exciting to see things like this at the app layer breaking out of the bubble. So amazing work. Thanks, Holke. Let's move to Greenpill. What's you mentioned AFO, a bunch of tools that you guys have built and put together. Can you give us a bit of an overview of that, and like what can be useful for like other developers in the space who want to also contribute and be part of this Greenpill Dev Guild?
Yeah, so I think the two main tools we're focusing on for Q1 are Green Goods, which is an impact reporting tool that I mentioned earlier. And then on the capital formation side, we're doing stuff with Global and Squad Staking and Lido. So the Lido CSM, which really want to shout out Lido for providing an accessible way for people to start staking with minimal capital. And then from there, Octant Vaults is the next part of that capital formation, because what we want to do is start to kind of shift the mental model that, you know, Octant's been leading of going away from donating to staking, right? Because that creates more of a low risk barrier for, you know, impact funders to be able to put their capital, see the yield be used for good, and then expand their investment, you know, via Hypercerts or via RevNets or different tokenization mechanisms. So our focus is really to, on the impact reporting side, like I said, increase the aperture of like making it super accessible for people to report impact on chain in like a very abstracted manner via like, you know, smartphone, etc. And then capital formation really start to connect the low to high risk funnel of like low risk is often vaults, yield, you're not losing any principal. Medium is getting some hypercerts. Now you've got a little more skin in the game. And then the high risk is like RevNet token. You want to take part in the revenue. You want to get some of the upside. So that's what we're focused on to start the year. And really, I want to mention the network for a little bit, because, you know, everything we do is to serve the network in the larger region space. And within the network, we're going through a Greenpill Garden, which Durgadas has helped do 2 workshops for, where we're starting to form a clearer, coherent theory of change and strategy that we're looking to execute. Because I think within our space, and it's generally like a lot of times there's a lot of outputs and activity, but not generally like tied to strong outcomes or having a strong sense of the outcomes we are striving, you know, towards. So really, the Gardens help is meant to help facilitate that, which then helps the Dev Guild be hyper focused on what outcomes the chapters want to see. For example, waste management work, regenerative agriculture work, giving access to farmers for credit, mutual credit systems. These are the type of things that, you know, now the Dev Guild can now focus on. So if you want to get involved, there's a lot of ways. You know, you don't have to just be technical and be a builder. We need a lot of support in community building and interacting with people that can use these tools, doing PD, etc. So yeah, I want to invite anybody who feels aligned with that mission of growing regenerative tooling and practices to, you know, to join not only the Dev Guild but the network as well. And of course, and then any of these great projects that are, you know, on this call too, that, you know, have spaces for people to join.
Fantastic. Thank you, Afo. Yeah. Excited to see that play out as well, like that entire stack, and see more devs and people just in general using it. Sounds awesome. And last but not least, and we're running a little bit out of time here, but still want to hear from you, Drew. What are some lessons learned for Crypto Altruists, and what are some of your future growth plans for the project? I mean, you mentioned a little bit already at the beginning, but we'd love to double down on that.
Yeah. So when I first started Crypto Altruists, it came from my experience in the nonprofit sector and seeing a lot of the like hesitations nonprofits, you know, had with the space around like perceptions and stigmas. It's all like, you know, criminals and shadowy supercoders, like just not knowing where to start and being overwhelmed and not knowing if they had the capacity, you know. And so a lot of those things still ring true today. And so, you know, one of the lessons I've learned is to make sure that like when we're building this tooling and these, you know, these opportunities, that we're doing in a way that's like equitable across, you know, different impact organizations of all sizes and all, you know, regions of the world, right? And I think that that's something that I had to check myself on, because I come from a background of working mostly with, you know, nonprofits and impact organizations here in, you know, in Canada and the US. and recognizing that, you know, folks have different needs, different capacities, different kind of like approaches that they need to take based on their jurisdiction that they're operating in. So we're really trying to form partnerships with a lot of like localized organizations. And this goes with like this concept of localism and Ethereum localism as well. One of these is a partnership with a great organization working out of Ukraine that works with nonprofits in Eastern Europe and Central Asia called Social Equation Hub. We've been working with them to make sure that all of our tools and resources are, you know, things that are relevant to nonprofits of all sizes and backgrounds. But one thing I've learned throughout all this and working with nonprofits in these local settings and doing research is that, you know, none of this is reinventing the wheel. And this is, I think, kind of the key lesson I've got from, you know, 4+ years now of interviewing almost 300, you know, leaders in this space, is that, you know, communities have been leveraging decentralized primitives and mechanisms for centuries, you know, whether it's been co-ops, saving circles, community circles, and shared governance models, whatever it is, participatory budgeting. And so what I've learned is that it's not about sort of like recreating these things. It's about, you know, using this technology that I think is, you know, truly amazing and generational to help scale these things that communities have been doing right for centuries, you know, to the world, and making it something that can be, you know, used in communities and localities around the world. So that, I think, is the kind of key lesson that has really kind of helped me shift my focus of Crypto Altruists away from this technology is creating all these new things to, you know, this technology is what can be used to help communities do what they've been doing well, you know, for centuries better. And so that's kind of what I wanted to wrap up on.
Love that. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, we're at the top of the hour. I don't want to take more time from you. This has been awesome, but I still want to give you a chance to say some final words. For just a quick reminder to mind, tomorrow the allocation window of Epoch 10 starts. We have here 4 out of the 24 amazing projects that are participating in this round, and that need your support by giving your rewards that you claim at the Octant app to receive some funding. So yeah, some final words. Let's start with you, Drew, that you're here next to me.
Yeah, just thank you so much, Nico, for hosting this, to the whole Octant team and community for this opportunity. It's a true honor to be at this table. If you want to learn more about our work, you can just head to our website, cryptoaltruists.com, or cryptoaltruists.com/Ethereum is where our Ethereum for Good hub is. It's been inspiring hearing the stories of the folks on the stage right now. And, you know, if you have a story of impact leveraging this technology, be in touch. We're always looking for new partners, whether to, you know, work together to build some really cool tools and to help nonprofits thrive, or, you know, just to kind of like share your story of something that you're doing that's really inspiring. So please reach out, get in touch. And thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here.
Thank you, Drew. Holke, some final words?
Yeah, also from me, like a big thanks to Octant, to the community, but also to the contributors to the Hypercerts protocol and the teams building on top of it. And that also connects then to the invitation. First of all, if you just want to learn more about it, go to hypercerts.org, and you find the blog posts about Hypercerts. Our documentation will be updated to all the new stuff as well, but the blog posts are kind of the stuff where you find out the direction that we are going in if you're interested. Also, invitation to check out @Proto more. I would love to see more connection between @Proto and the Ethereum communities. I think there's lots of excitement from my side to like what that kind of combination enables. And then if you want to like build on top of the Hypercerts protocol or contribute to it directly, please reach out at team@hypercerts.org. You can just email us and we'll get back to you. It is so much fun to like work in a network with many cool people and organizations. And if you want to be part of it, this is a warm invitation to everyone who wants to be part of it. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Holke. Appreciate it. Afo, what about you? Some words before we wrap up?
Yeah, just thanks. Shout out to you, Nico, for hosting this call, and just Octant in general for bringing us in this epoch. I found out on my birthday. I woke up and it's like, oh well, we got to epoch, no application. So that was awesome. And yeah, I'm just really excited for 2026 to be building in a space with a great community of builders and growing the network effects. Right, Ethereum is the ultimate public good, and we're all building on top of it. And the more we could build together, the farther it'll go. So yeah, I'm excited to work with everybody here on the call and everybody else. And yeah, shout out to the Dev Guild team. They killed it last year, definitely staying in the trenches when things were tough. So yeah, I want to shout out everybody that is a core member in the league. So appreciate you guys.
Love that. Appreciate you, FO. And last but not least, Protocol Guild team, Peter and Cheeky. Some wrap-up words?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having us and including us in Epoch 10 and including us within the stream vote. We're really thankful to the Octant community for being a consistent funder of Ethereum core development. I just want to add that, Ethereum is a ambitious project, and we do need quite a bit of funding to reach kind of sustainable levels that help rebalance those incentives that we spoke about before. If you're a team out there listening, we'd really love to speak with you. We have a lot of different new modes of contribution. One of them is adopt a core dev, which should be a little bit more accommodate a lot more different types of projects other than those that are pre-TGE, where we usually target with the 1%. You guys can get in touch via DMs or via the email on our website.
Peter said it perfectly. I have nothing to add except for thank you for all the support.
Amazing. Thank you all, guys, for coming on today. This was awesome to hear some updates. Really excited to have you as part of Epoch 10. Truly the best of the best, shipping 24/7 and with a lot of impactful results. So love to see that and keep it up. For the community, tomorrow the allocation window starts. Make sure to go check out those projects and vote for them. And I will see you tomorrow for yet another live stream with some other projects here. Thank you so much, guys, and see you around. Good luck in the Epoch 10 allocation window.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nico. Take care, everyone.